Hey, I'm working on the sixth valve for my Holton. I have made some changes to the design. I made some plans today. Excuse me, I'm sick, so I'm not having much fun today. Let me turn the camera to show what I want to point at. Okay, so this was the sixth valve design. It's like this because it's made out of parts I had that were left over. These are Miraphone 199 crooks for the first valve slide that I cut to serve the purpose, and a first valve slide from a 191. Same here, inner and outer legs. I put my little tube end rings on them. I don't think you can see them. Let's see. Yeah, little, it's like a rolled end on a B&S. I had a problem trying to take these apart today. Got that off right here. However, these, the ferrule and the crook, are fairly cemented to the valve. In order for me to get this hot enough with my little micro torch, with this thick casing, it's very thick metal, I had to heat it so long that the solder kind of crystallized and it won't come off. The only way to get it off is to break this bond by tearing it off. And I don't want to cut up these parts. I don't have anything to replace them with. Or so I thought. Now, these things are cut so small and have such a short, I can't figure out how to do this, little bit of solder, tiny bit of stuff going in these itty bitty ferrules. They're very fragile because on the Miraphone parts, when they come around and go to the first valve, this actually is 90 degrees on the inside on their design, but here is where it's been around the form and it bulges out. So if you look carefully, this is not 90 degrees. If you see these lines I have written in here, drawn on here, that's the flat angle of 90, that's 90 degrees to the surface. You can see right here how far out that is because that's parallel with the piece. So there's no way, at least if I got a part here, there's no way to get a ferrule on here where it's a 90-degree bend. It just won't do it. The only way to do that is barely put it in and do a lot of crap with a hammer and bending to get it to fit. It won't do it. If I slip it on there at all, not 90 degrees, about 95. Well, that means I need pieces like this that were bent to have ferrules put on them, where this is truly 90 degrees right here. Right here. That needs to be truly 90 degrees and straight enough for a length of time to put a ferrule on. Well, guess what? My Carath's stock fifth valve has that, two of them. Came out of the valve. One went up, one went down like that, and it went around in a donut and made a slide at the top and a teardrop, whatever you call it, the bottom loop, like that. Anyway, these are 90 degrees. And as you can see from the witness marks, it's more than long enough to put a ferrule on, and it's straight. It just so happens that the Miraphone tubing part number, the last two digits of which are 84, are almost identical to this Carath, which is a 20 millimeter bore. This is like 20.2, I think. I forget. And they're not quite the same thickness of metal, but they're real close. So this is the same distance, almost smaller than the Miraphone piece. So the Miraphone piece of the next size up, tube 85, fits on fine and makes a pretty close to 90 degree bend. Doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be close. And I need one of them to be perfect, and that one is not. This one, though, is not too bad. That's pretty close to 90 degrees. It's about, I don't know, depends on how you look at it. But it's pretty close. Now, I'm also swapping out the Miraphone rotor. The main reason being that the distance from the top of this knuckle to the top of the valve is too high. In order to get this to fit on the horn, if you're looking at it like I'm playing it, This would be here. It would be cocked back 45 degrees. And the fifth valve would be like this. So they'd be at these angles like that. That's so this can fit behind the valves between the bugle tubing and the valve set, the piston valves. That's fine, except there is no way to get to this guy when I have those 45-degree angled pistons, and this is in there like this. Well, how is this going to go? Like that. You see how the pistons cover the top of the valve? I can't even go, unless I go down, around, up, and over to the lever in a big circle, which would be about 4 pieces and a whole bunch of different mini balls. I don't want to do that. It won't work. It'll have all kinds of play, all kinds of slop. It'll make all kinds of noise. So I looked at, I cannot do that, and it's the only way to do it. I can't have a 6th valve. There is no other where to put it, unless I make it dependent. I don't want to do that. And then it dawned on me, what if I flip the valve over? Can I get, if it's on the bugle like this, can I get to this from underneath? And it works out that I can. The bugle tubing goes here. The 4th valve tubing is right above it. If I extend the stop arm out a little bit, I can run a rod right up here to the 1st valve slide where I can have a lever for my left hand. Perfect. Except that this valve top, being the distance that it is from the knuckle, from there to there, is too high. It hits the horn. It physically touches the horn. I'm showing you from the wrong side there. It comes down and it hits where my thumb is where the 4th branch of the horn is, whatever branch. Okay, so that doesn't work. But guess what? The St. Pete, lowly little St. Pete, the valve on it is perfect. First off, the distance from here to here, right there, is smaller. If you compare that directly with the mirror phone, you can see the distance from the knuckle to the edge of the case is definitely longer. This doesn't fit, but this does. Also, the cork plate on this, which I've always laughed about, is really laughably small, undersized. It's like the size for your French horn. But then I realized, Ken still uses those itty-bitty ones too. They work fine. They just don't look as tuba-like, but they work fine. This also has not flush, but very low-mounted screws. The cork plate has, what do they call that? Oh, when you drill a hole down, it has a triangular shaped head and it sinks down into countersunk. The screws are sort of countersunk to self-center the cork plate, which is a pretty cool little feature. So that's great. It's thinner, it comes out farther or less far, it comes out less distance. It's lower, the bumper holders are smaller. Everything about it gives me more room this way, like that. So when I flip this over and the bugle is right here, there is clearance for this to move with no issues. Everything is fine. This does not, none of this touches. It's about 1/8 of an inch of clearance to the bugle. Perfect. Since this is going to be removable, if there is any clearance, it's usable. Now, the next thing is, the way that the 5th valve was mounted to the horn was using a tenon. Like this. This is a 3-piece tenon. Let's see. Well, I think actually, yeah, it is 3 pieces. Okay. Okay, so this is tubing 85, the outer tube for all of this stuff. And I wanted it fits really tightly, so I wanted to actually bump this that goes to the horn. I wanted to bump it up to the 86 size. That's this. This will slip over the 6th branch of the bugle a little more easily. So I had a special valve where the exit port has been stretched out by Mirrorphone or replaced by Mirrorphone when they built it with the one tubing size larger. So it's 84, 84, 84, and the exit is 85, which is, 1/2 millimeter larger. So that means that this 85 tubing is the same size as the port, and this 86 tube will just slip over it. And now I put that on the valve, this on the tuba, and this is going to be this ridiculously short tenon. It's very tight. With grease on it, it would sit there forever and never leak. But I don't like it being this short unless it's got something to lock it in place. And I didn't want to silver solder on nubs for a slotted screw thing like on a sousaphone gooseneck. I just don't want to do that. I don't know. I'm lazy. I just don't feel like doing it. So I found at Texas Horn Trader on eBay. Hello, Ginger. This is my cat, Ginger. Some of y'all have seen her before. She's very into the repair shop. I decided if I'm going to use a St. Pete valve, I don't want to have to stretch the end of it to fit that 86. So I need to stay with the original size. That means it's an 84 size tubing bore with an 85 sized outer tube. Well, the Yamaha 641 that Texas Horn Trader is currently parting out has one of those older first edition 641, Yamaha 641 bell unions, or excuse me, lead pipe unions. Sorry, I'm being distracted. Ginger, go away. Go on. Good girl. We're going to look at cat butt for the next 10 minutes. Come on, go, 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 go. All right, so I spent a good part of today scraping this out to fit the St. Petersburg tubing and the Holton tubing because they're not exactly the same size. The interior bore is really close, but the thicknesses of the tubings are different, and that's what measures here is the outside diameter goes in the hole. This is tubing number 84. It's nickel silver. It's hard to stretch or compress this. So the branch on the tuba is brass. It's Holton brass. It's kind of thin. It's not particularly hard. Ginger, excuse me, have to do cat maintenance time. I should be able to easily use a flute head joint expander to open it up. And I have some other tools I can use to smush it down a little bit. And we're talking like 4 or 5 thousandths. It's not much. And then this will fit on it perfectly. Now, for those of you who have never seen one of these apart, one of these unions is just like a plumbing pipe, a plumbing union for pipes, for gas pipes. There's a lock ring. One end is soldered to the tuba, one end is soldered to the valve. The lock ring goes like this, and it pulls apart. And there's a seat, and then there's the male part that fits into the seat like that. The consumer parts that Rob made, they have a little bit of a flat edge here. They fit together and don't twist like this, much better. But for my application, it doesn't matter if there's any play in there. It works just fine. Now, I love you too, Ginger, but you need to move. Good girl. Okay, so here's my St. Pete valve. This little guy goes on here. I've already made this fit. It was way too small before, but it fits now. The interior bore where they join up is within a couple of thousandths. It's pretty good. So this will be what hooks to the horn. And replacing that tenon setup that I have, which is actually about that long right now. That's why I thought, oh, I can do some monkeying around and I could fit a valve in there. Well, that's all coming out. And one of the ways I'm going to replace that is with the other end of this union, which, give it a second, it has been filed out there. And it fits in there nice and snug with a little more sanding and a little more filing, a little more scraping. It should fit on the tuba with no adjustment at all. And if it needs adjustment, it should be pretty easy to do. So this, you got to pretend is the end of the tuba. And the new valve will go on like this instead of going into a little slide. And this is fine because I have a bunch of alignment braces and stuff. And the main tuning slide to ensure that it goes in perfectly straight. So once everything is together, then I just lock the ring down. This will go on upside down with the lever going down here, from here up to the first valve. It'll be fine. It's going to be great. The other valve, the regular Miraphone valve, will go right side up to the fifth valve. Like this. Well, that's the one that was stretched out. That won't work. One of these, something like this, you know. We'll have one upside down, one right side up like that, linked normally with the fifth valve slide on it. So it's going to go at this weird angle. about 45 degrees or so, a little bit less, maybe like that. So this will be fine. So this fifth valve with its slide will all be retained. All I'm going to do is solder this onto the fifth valve where the tenon goes to the horn. This removes a whole bunch of material so I can push this up. It's still longer by about 5/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. I might be able to trim the tube up here 1/4 inch, and I can shorten this ferrule right there a little bit by shortening the knuckles on both valves and then cutting off the trim section. And that'll take out another about, if I shorten it 1/8 of an inch on each side, that's a 1/4 inch here, another 1/4 inch here. So that's a half or 4/8. So I just have the main tuning slide, which is at a fixed position. And if this moves the fifth valve down, that shortens the main tuning slide. It'll only get shortened by 1/8 of an inch. So this little setup here is going to be pretty sweet. This part here is very well made. I didn't think they were. I'd never played with one before. I had one on my 641, but I never managed to figure out how to, I didn't own a torch as a kid, so I had no way to get them apart. But they fit really well. So I got this St. Pete valve. Now the other thing is, the pull of the slide was ridiculously low or short. Sorry, my cat's distracting me. Plus I feel like I'm going to choke to death. I've got all kinds of sinus issues. Okay, so I don't like the way that looks. It looks doofy. There's nothing I can do about it. I need a second valve crook. Today I got my St. Pete second valve crook, which is interchangeable with this Miraphone crook, and that will allow me, Ginger, I'm going to get cat butt on my parts here. Don't do that. Don't do that, sweetie. So that allows me to bring this in about 1 inch. Or if you see how tight this is, and I use these 2 carafe pieces, what I have essentially is this one will go straight up, just like that. I am not going to cut it short and get it as close. I can use a regular size ferrule because I have 1 inch to remove. So this adds, let's see, what does this add? Oh, about 3/8 of an inch. So I have 5/8 of an inch to cut off of this and bring it in. Actually, not more than that. 5/8 of an inch more than I thought. So I can move it in this far, less 5/8 of an inch to get it where I want it. I hope you can see that. I take great photographs. I make lousy movies. Anyway, so where's that? Got a little ferrule here. Slide will go up there. This one will go out. It just needs to be shortened a bit and it'll be the correct thing. That gives me, I have a total of 10 inches for this loop here. From here around to there is about 10 inches. When I total this up with everything, I should end up with a slide with more pull than this. Or actually, I'm probably going to leave it at this and I'm just going to make it go up higher. That's good because right now, when this comes back off of my piston valves at an angle like this, I'm sitting here playing and this is at an angle. This comes back and the fifth valve slide is here and they hit. There's enough room, but it's uncomfortable. I don't like having a crook here and then having to reach across to get this crook. Everything I'm doing is too high. So by making this narrower and bringing it in, this will come up a little higher, but it'll also put enough distance in here to put an actual brace and have room for my fingers to sit here, do that, and go to the other crook, because they're about the same height. Anyway, this has been a difficult video to make. I hope it made some sense. Some people were asking me about some of this stuff specifically. So anyway, I'm half out of my mind. I'm just feel like garbage today. So I turned 60 yesterday. 60. I'm 60. Can you believe that shit? Oh my God. When did that happen? I don't get it. I went from I'm middle-aged, I'm in my 50s. Now I'm 60. I'm ready for AARP. What the hell is up with that? I don't know when that happened. Anyway, I'm the big 6-0. I can't believe that. Just unbelievable. Ginger, what do you think of that? She doesn't care. As long as I swat her on the butt and pull her tail, she's okay with it. She says 60 is a good age. All right, well, I'm going to let y'all go. I'm sorry this was so incredibly rambling. I probably should have written it out first, but I'm getting ready to go out and have my birthday dinner. I was sick as a dog yesterday, so my birthday dinner didn't happen. Oh, God, don't knock my stuff around, cat. Let's move all this out of the way. Anyway, so that's it. It looks like the 6th valve is not only going to fit, but it's going to be marvelous, as Billy Crystal used to say. All right, so I was about to say, love you all, and I do, really. Yes. I'll see you later. Bye.